is with the City of Las Vegas and will be discussing their sustainability programs and policies. My name is Linda Miller. Ali Zabo and I co-lead the Project 17 for the PSN Policy and Funding Group. Our team discusses state and local sustainability policies and regulations. We will host monthly webinars for the rest of 2022, which will feature sustainability policies in various cities and counties in Nevada and neighboring areas. For today's webinar, we ask that you mute yourselves until the end, when we will open the floor for questions and comments at the end of Marco's presentation. Feel free to post in the chat box at any time, and we'll be sure to address those entries at the end as well. Today's recording of this presentation will be posted on the PSN YouTube page within 1 week. Thank you for listening in today, and thank you, Marco, for taking time out of your busy day to talk with us. I'll turn it over to Marco now.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I work for the City of Las Vegas in our Community Development Department, and I've been a part of the city's Office of Sustainability since its inception in 2008. I started out from University of Nevada, Reno. I got my bachelor's in science, bachelor's of science in geography, a minor in math, and a master's in city planning, both from UNR. But I am from Southern Nevada and went to Valley High School down here. City planning has always been somewhat of a passion of mine, but as you'll hear in this presentation, it's somewhat linked at the hip with sustainability and planning just go together. It's interwoven in a lot of the things that we do here at the city. Of course, a lot of the things that that are sustainability oriented and policy wise are connected with the triple bottom line for us. In 2005, Mayor Oscar Goodman signed on to the U.S. Conference of Mayors Climate Protection Agreement. That's something that we've carried through to this day. And we have been very committed to the environmental, economic, and social impacts of sustainability. Of course, the thing that gets a lot of people's attention is the drought. And we often get a lot of questions about that and what our overall stance is. The water issues over Lake Mead are not just the city of Las Vegas's issues. They are, of course, connected with the entire southwestern part of the United States. So when we think of what we're trying to do and what we're trying to accomplish, we're not just thinking of the short and near term. We're thinking of the long term and how we best utilize and conserve the resources that we have. Water is, of course, the thing that's been on top of everyone's mind recently, given the elevation of Lake Mead. And as we go into 2023, we've already had a number of cuts to our 300,000 acre feet allocation from the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation, but we're staring another one in the face here come January 1st, cutting us down to about 275,000 acre feet per year. We do, of course, get some of that back in the form of return flow credits, and that has been a success story, as has been the conservation efforts of the Southern Nevada Water Authority, of which the City of Las Vegas is a member entity of. So as far as our overall efforts from a local level, we've had a number of successes throughout the past decade and change. Beginning in 2008, 2009, as we got Recovery Act funding, we were able to leverage that with a number of local and state resources, funding sources. Through the Recovery Act and a lot of the Recovery Act bonds and grants that were authorized, we were able to put that together and really take that vision that Oscar Goodman originally had and build off of that. We are committed to 100% renewable energy, meaning that we have had a long-term power purchase agreement with NV Energy because of some of the efforts that we had committed to, and that serves our entire municipal retail load. And that does, of course, complement some of the statewide policy that's going on with respect to the renewable portfolio standard and the goal ultimately to get to 50% by 2030. Another component of that is our own generation that we have at our facilities. We have 6 megawatts of solar at 40 different facilities. That's in the form of solar covered parking or rooftop solar at fire stations, community centers, parks. The big one is a 3 megawatt plant out at our wastewater treatment facility. All of those all of those account for about 12 million kilowatt hours of our roughly 100 million kilowatt hour load in any given year, and depends on what our consumption is. We've been able to sustain that even though we've been adding more to our street lighting inventory and things like that. We've converted virtually 90% of the city's streetlights from high pressure sodium to LED. That is about a third of that total load. We've been able to do that through various swap outs, but again, the Recovery Act was kind of the big push to get us to change out the vast majority of them, as well as a fairly large general obligation bond. We have constructed a lot of our facilities to LEED standards. I'll go over a couple of those in just a second, but energy efficiency has been kind of a big focus of ours overall, managing our existing assets in our portfolios. And we've been able to leverage a lot of NV Energy's programs through the earliest iterations, Sherbet, and now more recently the PowerShift programs, whether it's for new construction or for existing buildings and facilities. We've been able to take advantage of a lot of the offerings that NV Energy has and put that to use. There are a lot of other sustainability efforts that we've been in the middle of over the past decade. Really, transportation electrification. We were one of the first entities in the state to buy electric vehicles and electric vehicle charging, and we have 75 locations throughout our at city facilities where we have EV charging or EV charging capability. We have single stream recycling at every facility. A long time ago, about 10 years at this point, we decided to take a deeper dive into our waste stream, and we conducted a comprehensive audit of all of our facilities in terms of the waste that was actually being picked up by Republic Services, and then right size that that waste stream so that we had the appropriate amount of trash capacity and the appropriate amount of recycling capacity. We do quite a bit with respect to LEED and the U.S. Green Building Council's LEED program, mostly in the form of new construction. So we have built a number of facilities, most recently our Strong Start Academy in East Las Vegas and our municipal courthouse right across the street from City Hall. All of those, again, the idea is having the, a comprehensive approach from water conservation to siting to interior ventilation, heating and air conditioning, material usage. LEED was just a really good fit for us, and as a community, I'm sure many of you know that Las Vegas has kind of led the way. We have a lot of LEED certified buildings on the Las Vegas Strip and throughout our community as a result of the LEED tax abatement that was fairly prominent beginning in 2005 onward. We did a similar effort, and this has really paid off. We even took it one step further and went for LEED certification at the citywide level. We are a LEED certified city, and really that has a similar rating system, but it expands it out. And we were able to use this at the beginning of a planning effort that I'll get into in just a second here, to really see where we stand and how we could compare ourselves to other communities across the country. And that's something that I know City of Reno has done recently. City of Henderson down in Southern Nevada. We've used this to help determine where uh, there might be gaps with respect to transportation and land use, quality of life, uh, in addition to energy, water, and waste. So with Lead for Cities, we were able to match that up with our master plan, and there really are some unique factors that are specific in Southern Nevada anyway that really lend itself well to determining how we can plan for the future. And if we do have those gaps, we can determine based on those existing conditions how we can um, plan for long-term outcomes that are beneficial. So our 2050 master plan was developed in tandem with that, and really thinking about how we can um, align with long-term outcomes for the next 30 years. We started this effort in 2019, and right as the right in the middle of that, we had the pandemic. So we did a fair amount of outreach with the public beforehand, but we also had a dose of virtual outreach that we had to do. The plan itself was adopted in July of last year, and it does develop this clear vision and framework for Las Vegas over the next 3 decades. It provides recommendations that are implementation oriented, and but still adaptable to change. And we did want to make sure that we were transparent as we went through it. So we did a range of statistically significant surveys. We did outreach with the public. We went to different events. We did outreach through traditional means with, with surveying. You used Jeremy Aguero and applied analysis for some significant work. Overall, though, we use this as a tool to determine how we can chart a course of action. And really, when you look at the next 30 years, the reality is that we're going to have another 300,000 new residents come, whether we like it or not, just based on statistics alone. And with that population increase comes all the stuff that goes along with it. You'll need new housing, you'll need new police officers, teachers, schools, you need park space, as well as all the commercial activity that goes along with it. So with that in mind, even if we, even though this is in line with population projections from UNLV and from the state demographer's office, even if we have a fraction of that, a lesser percentage of that, we still need to be prepared for that growth over the next 30 years in one way or another. And a big a big part of that is also water and our resources. We weren't surprised with what we heard in terms of top challenges. Obviously, water is definitely been on people's minds, so not really uh, a surprise there. But a lot of people also, talked about the things that were, front in mind. Our education system is not exactly the greatest. We're consistently in last when compared to other school districts and other states across the country. Of course, people are concerned about crime and public safety and homelessness. Parks and open space also fairly prominent. The responses we got back from people did range across the spectrum. There are a lot of things that are not listed in here, but these are the ones that came out the most. So our plan itself can be found online at masterplan.vegas. If anyone wants a link to it, I'll be sure to drop it in the chat here at the very end. But it does follow some of the statutory requirements for land use plans, and that applies for not only small cities and communities, but for the big cities and counties as well. City of Reno, City of Sparks, Washoe County, Clark County, City of Henderson, they all follow the same statutory requirements for developing these plans. And many of them, including Reno and Henderson and the Clark County, have all done master planning within the last few years or so. Our plan divides up uh, content into a couple different sections. We've got a chapter on land use and the environment, and in here we have the opportunity to look at land use along with a transportation perspective, and really the goal here with this is to reduce vehicle miles traveled, and then you know reduce emissions, incorporate housing, and incorporate how people get around. It also has a nexus with water consumption. There's more water that gets consumed at the single family level than at the multifamily level. Marrying up land use with transportation also helped us out with some of the efforts going on with the Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada. Their high capacity transit plan for the next 30 years involves bus rapid transit, hopefully maybe at some point light rail transit, and other forms of public transportation. And really the idea behind this is that we are at our current limits in terms of where we can expand. We cannot grow further to the northwest or to the west. These areas in gray on the left and at the top are more or less federal lands, Red Rock Canyon or the Desert National Wildlife Refuge. So there's a certain extent that we can only that we can go. So as a result, most of this plan is based on infill and redevelopment and building along these high capacity transit lines that RTC is looking to build. The first one is actually in design and should be under construction over the next few years, and that's on Maryland Parkway, going between downtown Las Vegas down to UNLV and to the airport. Uh, Increasing density and increasing intensity and mixing uses along these major arterial corridors like Charleston Boulevard, and linking together um, downtown Las Vegas with the Strip, with Nellis Air Force Base, with Henderson. That's really key. You know, we want to make it easier for people to get around, and by changing land use and zoning around those areas in purple and along those corridors in red, uh, we can help um, improve mobility as well as the efficiency of land throughout the valley. It's kind of a similar thing that's playing out in Reno in certain respects, where there's a real focus on downtown Reno, Meadowood Mall, downtown Sparks, and Virginia Street, and linking those together with the bus rapid transit that RTC Washoe has put in on 4th Street and Virginia Street. The next part of the chapter focuses in on environmental aspects. We do have a number of required features as part of the conservation element of master plans that we have to focus in on. You know, what are the existing conditions on the ground with respect to natural features, urban forestry. We take a look at things like parks and food access. For the first time in any master planning effort, we looked at environmental justice, how we mitigate brownfields, how we address pollution that's affecting communities immediately around downtown Las Vegas that are predominantly Latino or African American. All of these all of these things are within the plan, and we really try to find ways that we can make adjustments for long-term outcomes. As an example here, here's our urban forestry goal. Our long-term outcomes for this are with respect to the urban heat island effect. We have quite a bit we bear a lot of the brunt of the urban heat island effect in and around our jurisdiction. And if you look at this heat map, that's this Landsat satellite image uh, uh, from a couple of years ago. The areas in red are immediately around downtown Las Vegas and the Las Vegas Strip. It's mostly in the center of the valley and on the east side. You can see blues and greens that go around outside of it. That's kind of along the 215 Beltway. You can see that Green Valley and Summerlin, which are on the bottom and on the left, respectively. Those areas are a lot cooler because their canopy coverage is a lot different. So, we're prioritizing increasing tree canopy, and to do that, to increase the number of trees that we have with drought tolerant, water efficient species. And we want to plant about 60,000 new trees over the next 30 years, uh, both public and private property. And overall, that should increase our canopy coverage up to about 20% by 2035 and 25% by 2050, which is in line with other Western cities. Right now, we're at about 9% throughout the entire city. You can also see, and this is pretty standard throughout the plan itself, you can see that we have different opportunities and challenges that we discuss, and then how they all relate to our plan's guiding principles. We want to make sure that everything we do is equitable, resilient, healthy, livable, and innovative. And to do that, we have different key actions and implementation strategies that are really recommended. They can come in the form of policy that is adopted by the city council. It can be in the form of capital projects, the physical act of doing something like planting trees. It could be in the form of going to other affected entities in Southern Nevada, the state, or state agencies, doing collaboration and outreach. And then in some cases, it might require legislative changes of some kind, actually going to the legislature and asking for change because we are limited with what we can do um, as a local government. Our next chapter gets into economy and workforce, and just to run through this just really quick, but we do touch on the education issues and the economic and development issues, as well as housing and how we can improve housing affordability and cost metrics associated with housing throughout the region. Our fourth chapter gets into systems and infrastructure, public services that the city or other regional providers provide. We do have a number of goals that involve resource conservation, specifically with respect to water conservation, energy consumption, waste, and greenhouse gas emissions. We touch on transportation and really reinforcing that transportation land use effort, how we connect things together in those systems, as well as adapting to changes in transportation modes, being on the cutting edge when it comes to autonomous vehicles and electric vehicles, things to that effect. We have goals on public facilities and services. Again, recognizing that there's going to be this growth that happens over the next 30 years. We need to have public facility provision and services available for the general public uh, that's close and within proximity of neighborhoods. And then we touch on hazards. We conducted a complete hazard and vulnerability assessment. That is also in line with something that the county just put out, but very much touches on things like the drought, extreme heat, and flash flooding, which directly affect us from a climatic standpoint. I mentioned as far as implementation goes, this is a policy guide for us for the future. But we want to make sure that it's relevant um, and actionable. So to get us to the next, over the next couple of decades, we have 2-year action plans that are being used to help us achieve these long-term outcomes, this 50 by 50. And I'll show you in a couple minutes how all of this fits together. But again, using the key actions and implementation strategies that are in the plan, we can go back and look to see how well we're doing with respect to overall plan outcomes. How are we getting? How are we doing to get to that 60,000 trees that need to be planted, or increasing our canopy coverage, for example? So there's a built-in evaluation process that's in place that we do regular reports to our planning commission and city council, and then they can use that for any different means possible, whether that's uh, submitting grants or coming up with ordinances, you name it. I'll show you a little bit as to how our latest one went. This is our implementation report from September. We provided both the Planning Commission and City Council an overall look at how the plan has done, even after just 1 year. And that's something that we'll continue to do on a routine basis with all of the outcomes that are listed within our master plan. So in general, with the land use and the environmental metrics, um, we, as mentioned, this is an infill and redevelopment type of a plan. Most of the new development that has occurred has been suburban. We're wanting to try to shift that into those areas in purple and red, and really we'll want to see total infill start to increase over time. To help guide us with that, we're doing special area planning for individual parts of the city. We have the city broken up on census boundaries to make up a number of different areas. Some of them are pretty large, including downtown Las Vegas and Summerlin and Centennial Hills. But we're doing a special area plan right now for East Las Vegas, and we have a couple more that we're going to do, and that will help facilitate rezoning and that infill and redevelopment that we're wanting to do as new transit projects get built here in Southern Nevada. Maryland Parkway, again, being the first, but we have a couple other corridors, including Charleston Boulevard, that are eligible for money from the infrastructure bill. As mentioned, the tree canopy coverage is at 9%. We did look at how how access was to parks and other things like grocery stores, other community amenities. We have a number of environmental justice activities that we're planning on looking at over the next couple of years, in part because of the Inflation Reduction Act, which has billions of dollars that are eligible for activities um, within within our jurisdiction. So we are looking at how we can make that a focus and align that with upcoming funding. As far as education and the economy goes, we do recognize that we've got a number of shortcomings with respect to the Clark County School District schools that are within our jurisdiction. But again, trying to trying to overcome some of that has taken a new form. We did create a new charter school that's going to be opening up over the next couple of years, and we have invested in pre-K. Overall, our education metrics need a lot of improvement, but we're working on that. At the same time, having the UNLV School of Medicine open up in our medical district has really helped out, and that will go a long way to diversifying our regional economy and our economic workforce, and really strengthen some of the metrics there. Housing affordability, it's kind of been all over the place over the last couple of years. The market has not, admittedly, not been as bad as the Truckee Meadows has been, but it's still pretty rough. Housing is definitely something that we've been um, uh, trying to figure out with respect to overall cost and affordability. And more than a quarter of our residents spend more than half of their income on housing and transportation. Obviously, that is not sustainable. So when you match that up with affordable housing production has been low. There was only there was less than 100 affordable housing units developed by the city over the last 2 years. That's insignificant compared to the amount that is actually needed. Again, just to show, we're looking at things and looking how at different things come together and how they converge and what we can do to address them. Um, as far as transportation goes, again, we have a lot of major projects that are coming up. Uh, a lot of focus has been on the Lake Mead and resource conservation. But the good thing is and again, as has been discussed in some of these PSN working groups, overall sustainability and resilience indicators have been strong. Our renewable energy production, some of the water conservation efforts from Southern Nevada Water Authority, um, those have been really headed in the right direction for a while, thanks in large part to collaboration with a lot of the public entities in Southern Nevada. Um, we've seen a lot of new facilities that have been built over the last couple of years. We've but again, we need to keep pace with growth over the long term and try to fill in the gaps where we have gaps. Long-term public safety, that came up quite a bit in the election. Overall, public safety trends have been improving, actually, even with the pandemic. There might have been some issues, here and there, but violent crimes and property crimes have overall been on this long-term uh, decline over the years, but it is concentrated in certain places. So again, something that we have to work on. Overall, this looking back at the last year, that's something that I mentioned that we want to continue doing, because that's the only way how well you've done. And we hope to be looking back to the beginning of when this plan was adopted at not just our sustainability metrics, but all of them that we have. And really, these are recommendations that we give to City Council as a means of what to be thinking about over the next year, and how to come together with other regional partners to address whatever the issue may be. So I'll go through a couple of the things that we're going to be talking about for 2023 and beyond here, that are specifically sustainability oriented. Um, we have a lot of talk about Lake Mead and water conservation and as a whole. There's been the pool size limits that have been thrown out there. We've got um, a lot of other things that have been put into place by individual water districts or municipalities. Most of our residents are served by the Las Vegas Valley Water District. So by default, a lot of the changes that have been in place are put into place by SNWA. That still, we're going to be a part of that regional story, because again, as mentioned earlier, we've got another round of cuts that are looming beginning in January. So that that effort has to continue, as well as implementing Assembly Bill 356, which really removes all that non-functional turf that has been out there, and replacing it with xeriscaping and other water conscious material types. We have a number of capital projects that we're about to put out to bid over the next couple of weeks. One is for some new solar-ready locations, including our municipal courthouse and some fire stations. We'll also be putting in new electric vehicle charging stations to leverage the NV Energy and NV Energy rebates and Senate Bill 448, which really helps put a lot of that policy together behind electric vehicles and funding that it's come through the infrastructure bill. We're going to be constructing a new building across the street from City Hall. It's hopefully a LEED certified civic plaza that will help house some other departments that have been scattered throughout downtown, and bring everybody into one civic center location. That has been something that's been in the making for a couple of years now. Ultimately, we've done a lot of reshuffling around, but this new facility should be a good complement to our existing complex. And really, you look at the front of City Hall, the most prominent part about it are these solar panels, these solar trees that are in front. We want to make sure that this is a sustainable building, as well as a gathering place for people downtown, because there is a lack of park space in downtown Las Vegas. We also have a lack of trees in downtown. And a couple months ago, our city council adopted an urban forestry resolution, really piggybacking on that water conservation effort to make sure that we have only new trees that get planted as water efficient, desert, Mojave Desert native and adaptive species. And really to help boost that urban the urban forestry counts and those canopy numbers. Um, to really get a sense of how things are going, we are a part of a cohort that received some EPA funding to look at some environmental justice areas on the east part of the city in East Las Vegas, an effort called Buena Aire para Todos, that will look to see what air quality is like, as well as urban temperatures, and to see hopefully what the change is over time. There's a number of different use cases, not only at city facilities, but we also want to make sure that multifamily and single family locations are also seeing some positive change with added tree canopy. We've done a lot of tree plantings recently. The one at the top of the screen is at Freedom Park, but we've done a number across the city, including most recently at Fountain Park. Again, adding more trees into those facilities and into our right of way, something that we're really trying to do. And as you can see, that area in red, that's where Freedom Park is. That's really the crux of it, is getting you know less asphalt, less concrete, and putting in more green space, but doing so in a way that's water conscious. It also means making changes to codes. Making sure that we don't have parking lots that look like this. Where we have little diamonds that are supposedly supposed to support full grown a mesquite tree. A tree cannot survive in this condition right here. So we're looking at making changes to our zoning code to accommodate that and make sure that we have fewer variances, waivers, and exceptions for commercial and residential development, making sure that harsh environments like this are not the norm as they have been over the development of Las Vegas. Some other efforts we were a part of the community solar submission that went out over the last year. We partnered up with um, uh, or we put in an application along with City of Reno. Uh, Community solar was selected at Moana Pool and at Freedom Park. And again, this program was authorized under Assembly Bill 465 from the 2019 session. Really, this will come in the form of solar covered parking, and under that program, the power that gets generated at these facilities will be um, available for the low income customers that have signed up through their ESAP program, either currently or over the last year. They will get an opportunity to get a lower rate on their power bills. And again, it's mostly for disadvantaged communities, low income qualified, multifamily, uh, and then preference for certain types of small commercial, small businesses. Another effort that we've been involved in for a while now is commercial property assessed clean energy. That's that was modified slightly in the 2021 last legislative session, but essentially it's financing for commercial properties. It's like a special improvement district in which there is a lien that's placed on the property to do energy efficiency, renewable energy, water conservation, and resilience. And through this third-party financing that's made available, projects can get built. We've had a couple come through the city recently that have been financed for a variety of energy efficiency efforts. But this is something that we want to grow to scale and make available as another option for whatever the sustainability project it might be. There's it's relatively common throughout the country, but for Nevada, there's only a handful of other cases. Uh, uh, City of North Las Vegas, Henderson, Clark County, City of Reno, City of Fernley have all adopted programs, and those are available for use for anybody who's interested in taking advantage of it from a commercial side. There's, as mentioned earlier, leveraging the federal funding from the infrastructure bill and the Inflation Reduction Act is something that we're trying to take advantage of to the extent we can. There will be upcoming block grant funding to a lot of the municipalities across the state for the EECBG, the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant. And then there's a lot of competitive solicitations that are out there that we want to take advantage of. The most recent one for us that we received money on was for Stewart Avenue from downtown Las Vegas to Nellis Boulevard on the east side. Received 24 million for a project to narrow the number of lanes on Stewart, to add a cycle track, some wider sidewalks, and to put in street trees the entire length. So that's something that was a direct result of the infrastructure bill, as well as the EV charging infrastructure grants that are coming out. There's also funding that will come through the form of the energy investment tax credit. That for local governments is available for as a cash option. That's something that is a relatively new feature. We're waiting on IRS guidance for that, but we have been speaking with Kirsten at the Nevada Clean Energy Fund as to how that can be made use of for renewable energy projects, and really taking advantage of that to build out solar or EV charging stations or whatever the project might be. We're going to be continuing on with some of that, the localized planning efforts. As mentioned earlier, we had a lot of effort on East Las Vegas, but we have a number of other special area plans that will be coming up. Desert Pines is a golf course on the east side that we're looking at redeveloping to include affordable housing and mixed use commercial and residential activity, as well as a park and a College of Southern Nevada training center. That's something that we're working on with a private developer, and hopefully we have a development agreement in the next year to help build that out across 100 acres that in an area that where we haven't seen a lot of uh, uptake in golf. So Desert Pines is definitely one of those unique projects, but really helps exemplify what we're trying to do in creating complete neighborhoods and sustainable neighborhoods that have a lot of different amenities. Uh, about 2 weeks ago, we had our planning commission adopt an affordable housing ordinance that um, uh, that will go on to city council here in December. But essentially, that will create a new incentive structure for affordable housing that includes density bonuses, expedited permitting, and then building permit fee reductions and impact fee reductions. That's something that has been missing from our development code that we recognize we need to have. Also, part of that is the creation of an affordable housing trust fund. Again, in terms of looking at how to, make Las Vegas a sustainable place from a community perspective, having something like that is definitely important given some of the affordable housing issues that we have. It is modeled off of something that City of Reno is already doing, but again, we're trying to apply it to our case and really focus in on the transit-oriented development locations. And that is the last part of it, of what we're doing with with this master plan is implementing transit-oriented development and getting the zoning for that, really bringing buildings up to the streets and making them function in a in mixed use environments, have residential and commercial coexist, really to make it more walkable, make neighborhoods more walkable, make different transportation choices available, whether by foot, by bike, by bus, or by car. And that's something that will be coming out in 2023. I covered quite a bit of things here, so if there are any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them for anybody. But hopefully that gives a overview of what we're doing policy-wise, funding-wise for City of Las Vegas.
Marco, that was amazing. Really, the city of Las Vegas is clearly a leader in the state. And it was very interesting to hear about those robust programs and plans. I just want to start off by asking one question. With all of that, I couldn't help but wonder if you could help us understand what level of staffing is involved in the department, or is it a multi-department collaboration? What does it take?
Yeah, a lot of what we do is multi-departmental in many respects. We do a lot of work with our public works and our operations and maintenance side and our new construction side. We work with other agencies as well, but yeah, it's a staff of 2.5, and then another is going to be added on here in the next month. So we've been working in a lot of different spheres, but ultimately um, yeah, it's been a joint effort.
Great. Now, if anyone else here has questions, now is the time. Please just unmute yourself, open up your camera if you're inclined to do so, and ask questions. I know I posted a couple in the chat. You can also use the chat box, but I'd like to give others a chance to speak now if you'd like to.
So I've got, so I see one that was in there. Can you talk about what sounds like a balancing act between clean energy and water conservation? If we increase and encourage EVs, does this lead to more water being used at car washes? Is there cost efficiency calculations used for this? So in terms of, yeah, in terms of the balancing act, I mean, there can be there can be issues at a larger scale with respect to making too dramatic a change. One of the ones that came up most recently was from our mayor, who sits on the Regional Transportation Commission board, about how you have more electric vehicles on the road. They're not using they're not going to the gas station as much if they're plug-in hybrid, and if they're all electric, they're not going at all. That can certainly impact all the fuel revenue indexing that we've been building projects with for the last 10 years, right? That is that's been something that's been on her mind. It's like, how do we figure out how to grapple with more EVs that are coming on year over year. And even though registrations for EVs are fairly low at this point, you can see on the horizon that this is an issue that's not going to go away, and we need to have it solved. In actuality, increasing fuel economy standards has been chipping away at the fuel tax for decades. But yeah, at the end of the day, we need to have the legislature come together and figure out how do we balance getting more cleaner vehicles on the road and get cleaner transportation, at the same time not destroy our primary transportation funding source, which is the fuel tax. There's got to be a way to you know transition between one form of technology and the other, and not and not cause serious problems to NDOT or the RTCs or to the municipalities that use that for maintaining and building new streets and highways. Same thing with with water conservation. You gotta we have to be looking at how the impacts of using less water is on other use types. I know we've heard a lot about the landscaping industry. They've been afraid of what's been coming down the road from SNWA. We're having this conversation right now about evaporative cooling. Um, Certainly, that's that's had an impact on pool construction and the ability to provide an amenity at residential, for residences that have been able to traditionally been able to do what they want. Again, I mean, you have to look at a lot of different variables as to what it is that has to, what are you trying to get to at the end result, and is there a benefit, and how much of it is. And to this point, I don't know if there's been any amount of cost efficiency calculation for any of that at such a macro scale.
Thank you, Marco. Just want to give an opportunity for anyone else that would like to speak at this time. Just unmute yourself if you are interested, if you have a question. Marco, there is a question. One question here, which. Oh yes, please go ahead, Ali.
Okay, thanks. So as you guys begin to grow more and anticipate that those EVs on the road, are you guys going to try and focus on EV charging stations that are off the power grid, so to speak, and are powered by solar? Is that something that the city already does or is looking at?
So not really, because of how NV Energy's programs have been rolled out. Almost every single one we've gotten an incentive for, and just because we are in the location that we're at, we are connected to the grid. I don't know of any locations that we build that's not, having some kind of a redundant power supply that's connected to the grid. Even our solar covered parking locations where we have EV charging already, those are all grid tied. I mean, it's just part of the interconnect. That's part of being in NV Energy service territory.
Do you anticipate that grid being overloaded a little bit, or are you guys worried about that, or is that a conversation you've been having with NV Energy? I know it's something that we talk about up here, right? And I think they said next year a bunch of companies are required to start coming out with some EVs, so we're going to expect to see quite a bit.
Yeah, and it's been on it's definitely been on our mind, and I think in both the northern and southern service territories there, the calls to conserve that come over the summer kind of prove that point a little bit. If you have a high AC load that goes, from the middle of the afternoon all the way to the evening, and there's a lot of pressure on the grid, that's definitely cause for concern. That's why NV Energy was saying, don't run any appliances during the middle of the day. Don't plug your EV in until you're ready to go to bed at night. We don't need additional pressure. Some people think that had something to do with renewables. I would say that it's more of a larger grid and transmission issue between different locations within the Southwest, within our independent service operators. But the point is clear. We do need to be cognizant of the pressure that's applied to the grid, and EVs are just one more thing that gets added on. With battery storage that's coming online, with additional renewable sources that come online over the next couple of years, I think we'll slowly get the hang of how to handle with some of those grid pressures that we might have.
Thank you.
Yep.
Marco, when you said EPA funding, my ears really perked up. I suspect others did as well, particularly when you mentioned partnering. Like, what a wonderful plan to partner with another city in the state on like the Nevada Clean Energy Fund. Are there any other types of partnering or project funding opportunities that present themselves? How do they present themselves? How does one communicate with the city or find those opportunities? Let's say maybe it's not another city, maybe it's an independent organization, a nonprofit who's working on programs, sustainability programs. Are there opportunities to partner?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot more coming up, especially with the some of these big funding opportunities. The Inflation Reduction Act, there's a lot of grants that are going to be available nationwide, but a lot of them aren't going to be in the form of direct to governments. They're not passed down. They're instead going to be there for nonprofits and community groups to take advantage of. But what will make an application look better is working with a local government that does have access to other resources that might be able to extend those dollars even more. That's something that we did with that EPA grant. Is the city wasn't the prime applicant on that. We're working with a local nonprofit, Impact NV, to get that to get that grant rolled out and to really look at the benefits of improved air quality in East Las Vegas as a result of more tree planting and increased canopy coverage. Definitely over the long term. But the point is that, yeah, I mean, we're looking all the time. I like work with cities of Henderson and city of Reno on things like CPACE, getting our programs set up, and because the legislature is about to start, there's going to be a lot of opportunities to reach out to other groups to figure out how to advance certain goals to get an outcome.
Great. So would you be a right contact or someone else in your department?
Yes.
Okay.
You can
then
definitely reach me and that's my email right there.
Great. So then one other question kind of tied to that is, so you mentioned a city lead certification. I was curious what challenges there might be and or creative solutions to meet those waste reduction requirements with that particular city lead certification program.
Yeah, so really looking at the waste stream itself and talking to, Republic Services in the south and then waste management in the north. It's um, it's one of those things that I think we do need to be partners with them, and because we're under a franchise agreement, that can be kind of a difficult thing to you know to you know to look through. But we put in our franchise agreement some specific recycling goals and waste diversion goals, and how we get to the next level in terms of waste diversion. I think that's something that we could maybe take a look at as maybe a best practice. Unfortunately, under the franchise agreement models, that it's hard to open those back up. But it's not to say that it can't be done, but it's something that can be looked at as a possible solution for trying to improve the overall community diversion rates, and looking at different sectors, whether that's multifamily or commercial, and seeing how we can get more more waste diverted and out of Apex and out of Lockwood. And then
Great.
I'd say the same would apply for the rural cases as well.
If you have time for one or two more questions, Marco, I see Laura has posted a question there. From your perspective, how can we as citizens from Las Vegas collaborate with the city to promote sustainability?
Yeah, definitely reach out. We try our best to do community to do community events, and really the last year we've been doing a lot of community oriented planning and activity for one part of town, which was East Las Vegas. We're going to be doing a lot more of that for other parts of the city in 2023, and that's really the opportunity for us to hear about people want in the community, whether they live there or whether they visit or work there. It doesn't matter. We're more than happy to uh, hear from individuals as to what they can do to promote sustainability, or even to come out to a tree planting event, or to come to an event promoting water conservation or something like that. Those are all things that we have done in the past and that we'll do in the future.
You mentioned a waste study. Thank you, Marco. You mentioned a waste study. Are you able to share that with anyone who's interested, or what's the status of that?
That was 10 years ago. It's probably not relevant anymore, but that was specific for city facilities. But yeah, it was a comprehensive look at all of our facilities and what their capacities were, how many days per week they're getting picked up, and then of the things that were being thrown away at different use types, whether those were parks or fire stations, how much of it was recyclable and how much of it was not recyclable and how much of it was compostable.
Great. Thank you, Marco. Yes, it seems that waste characterization studies are kind of few and far in between. But I think if there's something available, I know I would certainly be interested in seeing that if you're willing to share it. Laura is saying should we look out for information from City of Las Vegas about how to participate?
Sure. Yes, we'll make that available.
Great. I think if anyone else has a question, we're kind of at the end of our time here. Please feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like to ask Marco a question at this time. Well, Marco, I think you did an incredible job of covering a lot of information in this short 1 hour time frame. We're so very grateful for that. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Marco.
All right. Well, have a great day, everyone, and thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Linda. Thank everybody.